Is Groma a good unit in triangle strategy? Who is Groma? What is she all about? All right, so Groma is this iron fist lady that punches dudes, and you get her when you have certain conviction ratings. I'm not going to really go over recruiting in this video. This is just going to be, is this a good unit or not, and like what the unit does. So I'm assuming you either looked up recruitment or recruited her. So let's jump into her kit. All right, so one thing that really stands out about her is her evasion. And when you throw 2 evasion bracelets on her, her evasion becomes pretty insane. So she is kind of like an evasion tank in a way. Now, evasion tanking can be bypassed by magic. So if you throw her out in the fray and she gets hit by 2 mages, she's dead. She has very low health. She actually has 420 health, which is kind of funny. I don't know why she has 420 health specifically, but she can easily get nuked by 2 magical hits and will die with 100% accuracy. So even though she can evasion tank, that is the big downside of positioning her poorly. But her strength, pretty average strength, above average physical defense. Magic attack is like really low, but you don't need it. Magic defense, pretty average. Pretty decent luck. Pretty high accuracy. Pretty good speed. 29 speed is good. Evasion is like probably tied for highest among like Milo and I think Piccoletta has high. Yeah, she's pretty high, but she probably has a little bit less. So extremely high evasion. These bracelets give her +5, so she has 76. So just 2 more base evasion than Piccoletta. And then if we like go to Milo, wherever she is, there she is. 75. So potentially the highest evasion out of all the characters. Let's actually just go through them all really quick, just to confirm this. I think she does. She has the highest evasion. So highest base evasion, cool. 5 move, 3 jump, some mobility, nothing crazy. This is fully upgraded. Let's go over her abilities. Her basic attack hits for pretty good damage, 221, that's fine. Her first passive allows her to slip past enemies and obstacles. So if there's like a barricade in the way, she can just run right through it. If there's any group of enemies, she can just run right through them. Kind of similar to Milo, who has a similar ability, if not the exact same. So pretty good for positioning. Obviously her movement isn't high enough that she can go too far into enemy lines, but she can go far enough. Alright, next she has her first attack ability, Sweeping Kick. So it hits up to 3 dudes, and it has a relatively low chance to immobilize. It has like a 30% chance against enemies the same level, and it also does less damage, like significantly less damage in her basic attack. So it's kind of on the weaker side. It's not really too useful. You can use it for chip AoE or to trigger multiple follow-up attacks if you have allies on the other side of the enemies you use it on. But aside from that, the immobilize proc rate is way too low to consistently rely on, and the damage is quite low. This isn't, like, she's a decent unit, but she's not super strong, so we'll get to that soon though. Eliminate and evade. So when she kills something, she gets increased evasion. Combined with her already high evasion, this can allow her to stay in the fray, so this is good. Energy wave, it does the exact same damage as her normal punch, except it costs 1 TP and is ranged, so you can kind of hit things at range. It also can trigger follow-up attacks at range and hidden diagonals. So if she cannot gain access to an enemy but a diagonal is open, she can hit them diagonally and then potentially also trigger up follow-up attacks. So it's for flexibility. So she doesn't have like big damage. We'll get into that soon. But all right, this is in my eyes her best ability. Lure in, chance to infuriate all enemies within range for 2 turns. So 90% success rate. It hits above, below, left, and right of her. So it hits up to 4 tiles, all adjacent tiles to her. And it has a 90% chance of succeeding against basic enemies. So, like, against a boss that could be Furied, it should be 45%. So against enemies at the same level, she has a 90% chance to Fury them. So the big upside of this, like, she can run in between enemy lines and then go Fury a mage with high success rate, and then the mage will resort to book whacking, which hits for, like, 1 damage, and it'll probably miss because her evasion's so damn high. So she's basically an evasion tank utility with some damage, if you want to think of her in terms of role. She also has counterattack. So her main combo is lure in, cross counter, where she just gets as many things attacking her as humanly possible while evading and then just chipping them away. So she's kind of like an evasion tank if you want to think of her as like a unit. Next you have desperate evasion. Increases evasion when HP is at 50 or below. So at 50% or below. So this combined with eliminate and evade, she can boost her evasion. I believe this puts her at 96. And I think this is similar. So like from 80, if you run 2 evasion bracelets and she's level 50, this puts her at like 96 evasion, which is insane. She can still get hit though. Like she can still get hit by magic. Enemies can still hit her even at 96, because accuracy works against evasion. So some enemies have decent accuracy, so you have to keep that in mind. And then finally we have Skyward Fist. This is a ranged spike damage attack, where she basically Shoryukens an enemy from far away, and she doesn't move, but she'll physically move for the animation and then go back to where she used it from. You can also hit things that are a little bit above you, and it also scales the damage the higher up they are. So you can Shoryuken. So basically she's like Ryu. She can like Shoryuken a dude who has height advantage for, to shut them down or to kill them. To kill them, because it doesn't shut them down. Alright, so let's look at her upgrades. Okay, so I did discover it is yens, so that's good to know. all these names. I'm sure I could have learned that from cutscenes, but I've been skipping them all lately, so I don't remember a lot of this, because I skip every cutscene. So this is my 4th playthrough. Alright, upgrades. She is a damage dealer in a way, so getting damage up is useful. You pretty much want to get it. Evasion increase is huge. That's like the core part of her kit. That's good. Next you have physical defense, HP, and speed. You want all of these. She's relatively cheap to upgrade because she has an ore, and she only has 2 rank 3s, so she's easy to max out and quite cheap to do so as well. So you want to get everything: the evasion, the speed, the health, the defense, and all the damages. And then for her ore, she either increases damage dealt by cross counter, this is her counter attack, or she increases damage dealt by follow-up attacks. So depending on how you're using her, if you're using her to Fury, which is pretty much how you have to use her, both of these are good. This one probably gets you more damage because it's more controllable, because it's easier to set up follow-up attacks than it is to set up cross counters. Because you don't know who the enemies are going to attack. Like if they're Furied, you know they're going to attack her. But they're both good. They both seem to be decent. It just depends on what you prefer. If you're just gonna have her tank, maybe this is better. If you're gonna like surround enemies that are Furied with your allies, this is better. So that's how I'd look at it. And then her other thing, aside from the damage, is just Skyward Fist. Her only real big damage ability. So I'm gonna go over her kit now. So we'll like throw her in a game really quick. So because she is an evasion tank, she kind of fills the role of like Eridor. In a way, he's a little bit more consistent because he can make himself invincible. But let's just do this first battle because there's like few things on the board. She has the magic weakness like them, but her base magic defense is better than an average tank. But the downside that she runs into is that her max health is low. So if she does get hit, even by like a normal melee attack, she can die very easily. If she gets hit by a melee attack and then a spell, she's dead. So you have to really be careful when running her, because she can just randomly die. Like she can evasion tank really well, but then sometimes she just randomly dies because she gets hit twice. So it can be kind of high risk to run her in a lot of situations. She doesn't have mobility to get out, and she doesn't have super tanking to get out either. So like Flanagan has Ironclad, which halves damage from the front. He also heals every turn. He also has high base health, and he has mobility. And he essentially has like 8 move and he can fly, so he can get out. Eridor has super tanking. She has like evasion tanking. So it's, in my opinion, it's not as good, but she does a little bit more damage than them. So depending on how you want to run a team comp, maybe you want more damage. But all right, let's just end a turn. I'll talk about her positioning first, like where she wants to be. So because I would describe her as a flank evasion tank. She is not meant to be in the fray. Like in this case, obviously these are low level enemies, but she doesn't want to be like in the middle of a bunch of enemies. And the only case that's true is if she has like Gila's revive on her, a dragon shield, or some kind of like extra thing that can keep her alive in case she does get hit. Because if she can get attacked by like 3 or 4 enemies, as long as 2 of them hit her, she will die for the most part. She doesn't have any real ways of increasing her tankiness aside from like boosting her evasion. So like mages essentially hard counter her, which is true of tanks in general. And if you look at her kit, the basic thing you do with her is you use Lure In and you combine, you keep her in the back lines with your team. You use Lure In and you pull damage away from other units that are vulnerable, like mages, and you use her as like a distraction. And then enemies will attack her, take some chip damage. Hopefully she evades. That's the game plan. She cross counters. So you also note that she has to evade the attack to counterattack, but her evasion is high enough that this is viable. But the big problem with her, I find, is she doesn't have mobility, and her only really useful skill aside from Lure In is Skyward Fist. Like Energy Wave is okay, but you can always just throw like a Firestone for 100 damage, and that's usually fine. But her magic attack is too low to really take advantage of that. And then Sweeping Kick kind of just sucks. It just does really low damage, and the chance to immobilize is just bad. It's just like 30%. So I feel like her kit is missing something. Can she infinite tank like Eridor? Not really. Because if you're going to use her as a main tank, then you might run into some problems. Now, you can build up a team comp that supports her tanking, but if she could tank, anyone could tank. So, like, the argument that you could build up a team comp to give her, like, invulnerability and all this other stuff and defensive boons, like, that's true of almost any unit. Okay, so I think she's a decent unit. She's not bad. The 90% Fury is pretty good. So these are low-level enemies, so it's going to be 100. But her big thing is like evasion, tanking, chipping enemies, and then Skyward Fist. Compared to other units in the game, I don't think it's like huge value to run Groma over them. It's okay. I mean, because like if you want like a bruiser, because like in my eyes she kind of functions like this. She's like a bruiser-ish tank type of thing where she can take hits but evade them. So in the way she takes hits, she dodges them. She wants to take hits, but an evasion tank them, chip enemies, infuriate enemies, deal chip damage enemies, contribute a little bit to damage, and contribute some to shutdown, and contribute some to like tanking. But if you want like a good bruiser, which is essentially what she's trying to be, I would say Maxwell is much better because he can also he doesn't shut things down, but he can really damage things. And if you want like shutdown tanking, like Eridor is just much better. She's not a bad unit. Like if we look at some of these abilities, like the 2 good abilities are these 2. Like Energy Wave is whatever. Sweeping Kick is okay. It's nothing crazy. These are level 3 enemies, so they're gonna get one-shotted. But even against low-level enemies, she only has a 62% chance to immobilize. If that were the case against level 50, then it'd be better, but it's like 30%. So there's cross-counter popping off. These are low-level enemies, though, so their accuracy is going to be low as well. Yeah, accuracy of 4. They'll probably never hit her. So she can kind of hit at range. I mean, if you want to think about her in terms of, like, what she does, I feel like if you want, like, a decent utility, damage, dealer, mitigation thing, I think Serenoa is just much better. I'm trying to think of what other units. Let's leave here. Let's just kill this and then go back to the roster. I think overall, I would rate her as like B tier in a tier list. She's usable. She's not like terrible. She does bring something to the table. When the agility tanking or the evade tanking works, it's really good. But when it doesn't work, she's dead. So it's like it's very polarizing in that way. Like Avlora, like she takes half damage below half health. So like even like if you run a few units for her gimmick, like she ends up becoming like a demigod that just roams around like nuking things. Whereas like in this case, if you want to run the evasion tank gimmick, like if 2 things hit you, she's dead. So it's kind of rough. So units that I would say are better at her role, probably Milo. Honestly, she's basically just a worse Milo. And I don't like saying things like this because I like to give units like a chance, especially if they seem bad. But Milo does everything Groma does, but just better. She has similar evasion, so if you throw 2 evasion bracelets on her, she'll have like 85 evasion. She has more consistent crowd control that's even more impact because she has crowd control that can convert an enemy into an ally for 2 turns and will damage enemy like units and take damage themselves. And sometimes damage does break the tempt, but sometimes it doesn't, and they just take damage themselves and damage things for you. Milo has way better mobility. She has a 100% hit rate tempt that can tempt 5 things at range for 4 TP. She can poison and deal spike damage. She can siphon TP and debuff for 3 turns, which is really good against bosses and denying enemies like mages the ability to cast offensive spells. She can poison for DOT damage and escape. She gets increased evasion near enemies. So in my eyes, she's basically just a bad Milo. Milo can moon jump and then move, effectively giving her like 10 move or something. Like let's pull up Milo really quick. What's her move? Yeah, 5 move, moon jump, range, a 5. Milo has 10 move and moon jump. While using moon jump, you can do something after using moon jump. So she has instinct, increase your evasion, evade detection, the same ability, allow you to still pass enemies and obstacles. So she's just basically a bad Milo. She has less health. Let's see. Milo has pretty good defense too. Yeah, so like she's basically just a bad Milo, honestly. So like she has crits, she has some damage, but Milo's ability to crowd control puts her at like A or A plus tier, and her like evasion tanking is better. She has more health. She can get in and out. She can moon jump 5 squares, put poison on something, run away. Moon jump 5 squares, heart steal or something, run away. She can get in and out. She can rush if she needs to. She can just move 10 squares forward. She can bounce in. She can jump to high ground. Like the main thing missing from Groma's kit, like honestly, if she had a thing like moon jump that even was just like she like leaps forward and she can leap up like 2 or 3 extra height, like if she leaps forward like 3 things, like 3 squares, I think instead of this ability, I think she'd be a little bit more competitive if she had more health. But as it stands now, like I don't think she's compared to Milo. Like yes, she has good accuracy, but 80% tempt rate for 2 TP on Milo at max level, 100% tempt rate with her weapon skill is better than like a spike. Because if you tempt 5 enemies and 2 to 3 of them, like if 1 or 2 of them is a mage and they cast a spell on like an enemy like melee, that could be 200 damage right there times 2. That could be 400 damage from a skill that's safe to use. And then Milo can run away afterwards because you can use it at range. So I think she's just not as good as Milo. Or Anna, for that matter, who's like kind of similar. Because she's kind of this like... I mean, Anna has more damage and less utility, but I would say the comparison of Groma and Milo is pretty fair. Milo is just so much better for every reason. Damage, mobility, durability, evasion, tanking. Like, she does everything Groma does, but better. And Groma's Immobilize is not as good as Tempt. And if it was more consistent, if it was like 80% chance to immobilize 3 targets, I would say there's some merit to running her. And if Energy Wave did something more than just like her fist damage at range, I would say there's something to her. But honestly, I think she's just like straight up B tier. There's nothing like standout that's like obvious. The evasion tanking thing, like other characters can evasion tank. Piccoletta, Anna, Milo especially, because she gets evasion boost just for enemies being within range of her. So it's more consistent. Range of 1 to 2. So an enemy can even be like a square away from you, and you still get evasion increase. So with 2 evasion rings, or 2 evasion bracelets, it puts her at 85 base evasion. And then, plus the increased evasion from instinct. She usually dodges, and she has a little bit more health to work with. Pretty good, insane magic defense, actually, like looking at her magic defense. And then like pretty average physical defense. And most importantly, good magic attack. So if you want her to throw a Firestone or something, she can chip for like 120, 130 damage at range for free to conserve TP and also contribute to spiking a target. So yeah, Groma's decent, but Milo's just better. So there's really no reason to run her. I mean, if you just want to run an old lady that evade tanks and punches things, and gets a Shoryuken off or two, go for it. But there's really nothing in her kit. I mean, definitely in the comments, let me know if I'm wrong about something or if I'm missing something. But as far as I can tell, like let's look, 29 speed versus what? 28 speed. Like there's nothing to stand out. Like she has 3 jump instead of 2. But Milo has moon jump, which is huge. +8 height or -8 height. Moon jump, like she has effectively 10 move. And she can act after moon jumping, so you can move, hit something, and then moon jump out. Or I'm sorry, you can moon jump in, hit something, and then run out. And for that reason, I would say Milo's a really solid unit. But yeah, that's it for Groma. Let me know if you think that's wrong or not and why. But I don't really see the value. Like the only thing that's huge and standout is her 90% AOE Infuriate. But the problem is positioning her. She just has 5 moves. So like, okay. And the other thing too is Milo has her AOE stun. She has an AOE stun. You never really use it, but she has it. It hits 60% chance to paralyze, which is a little bit stronger than Fury because then it shuts things down. It can hit 4 targets, but the difference is she can moon jump in, paralyze them, and then run out. So 60% chance to put paralyze on up to 4 targets. And if there are 4 enemies in a plus shape and the middle's gone, so like an inverted plus where like there's, a left, right, top and bottom arrangement, like in a plus in the middle of the plus is gone, she can leap in the middle or run in the middle and then stardust them all. And she can moon jump in the middle of it and then stardust them all and then run out. So, and her main use is like the poison, the hit and run poison, hit and run debuff, hit and run heart stealer, and then ranged crowd control, power of love. So, and this just wastes enemy turns and stalls. So this is just such a good ability. But I just think Milo is just objectively better. And it's unfortunate because I was hoping there'd be something more to her. But so yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it for this one. If you feel like there's something I missed, definitely comment it. If you like this video and the other videos I've been making, definitely like and subscribe. I'm going to be making more videos like this. I have a few units left. I'm not going to be able to do Giovanna for a while because I don't have an indestructible stone. I'm going to have to get that on my 5th playthrough. They're hard to come by because you only can get 1 per game. I bought a bunch. On their first New Game Plus, you can buy like 3. I bought a bunch and sold them because I was thinking I was going to be like this every time. But it's not the case. So I'm going to have to beat the game again before I can properly upgrade her. But yeah, so I would say Groma's like B tier. But yeah, that's it for this one. Thanks for checking this out, and peace.